Hey guys, Mark Kwok here. Today, I think I promised this in my last video, but I wanted to talk about a special watch that I purchased last year, and that is the Omega Speedmaster 321 Ed White. I have owned a Speedmaster in the past. The Speedmaster Professional, it was probably like a $2,000 watch, which I know seems expensive, but for the luxury watch world, that's like pretty low, which is crazy to say. And in fact, that same watch has appreciated in value to be $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 on the used market now. And so it was a great investment to have kept it, but I actually sold it a long time ago. So a couple of reasons I sold that Speedmaster back in the day. Well, one was that it is a manual movement. Now what that means is that some watches are mechanical movements where you have to literally wind the thing. There's a crown here, you wind it, and then that's the way that you charge the watch. That is sometimes annoying. And so for me, I remember finding that kind of like, all right, if my watch is dead, I have to reset it. Now I have to remember every day to wind this thing. The other reason I sold it is because the original Speedmaster Professional, the one that went to the moon, the one that everyone talks about, it is a Hesalite crystal. What that means is it's basically a plastic crystal. The problem with that is that usually a bunch of scratches and fogging and all these different things occur on the crystal in the front. I didn't like that. I wear my watches all the time, and having a bunch of scratches just from wear and tear, I just didn't find that practical. And so there is a version that doesn't have that. There's sapphire cases and stuff, but I just remember the one I got was the original historical one. And so I just didn't like that from a practicality standpoint. All right, I know this story is getting very long, but fast forward like 6-7 years and they announced this bad boy, the 321. What's different about this Speedmaster is that one, it is sapphire front and back. Two, it is with the 321 movement. How do I explain this? Well, there is a movement in the watch movement itself. This is for watch geeks, but it used to actually be a very, very amazing movement that actually went to the moon. And then they eventually switched it to be a little bit more technologically advanced to the 861, then the 1861, and then the 3861. Watch geeks, some reason, want the original. They want to look back to the past. They want the heritage. And so Omega decided to go ahead and restart this small factory. They don't make a lot of these, but they are effectively putting a replica of the original 321 movement into this watch. So that makes it a little more special. It's a little more historically accurate. It is more beautiful from a when you actually look at the movement itself. So all those things contribute to it being a little unique. Also, the bracelet is different. I actually really like the way this bracelet is, and it is just, I love vintage look, but I don't necessarily love the vintage hassle. I realized this watch is like a great representation of that. Modern parts, sapphire front, sapphire back, really nice bracelet that is rock solid, a movement that harkens back to the old, and it is basically a replica of the old, but it's made with new components and new parts. It probably won't have the hassle of vintage, but it looks and acts just like vintage. So let's go through some of the pros, some of the cons of the watch, and maybe you can decide for yourself whether it makes sense for you. First pro, aesthetics. I think this is the best looking Speedmaster in the entire catalog. And I think it's because it comes down to, one, it's a 40 millimeter size instead of 42. I love the way the lugs are. The bracelet is rock solid. I love that kind of design of the bracelet. Baton hands plus a Omega logo that's like a vintage Omega logo. I love that. It has the nice see-through case back of the 321 movement, which is a beautiful movement, one of the best movements that they make, and it's with Sedna rose gold and all this sort of stuff, so it is high-end. The only thing people will have a little bit of contesting against this is that the markers are slightly beige as opposed to white. I think that's supposed to, they call that fauxtina. I think some people are gonna like that, some people are not. Number two, I love that this is unique and sort of like almost limited in quantity and something a little bit more rare than the average Speedmaster. You know, a lot of people wear the same watches out there. The Rolex Submariner, there's just a million of those out there. The Speedmaster, because it's so popular, there are a ton of Speedmasters out there. But if you want to stand out a little bit from the crowd, maybe you know a little bit more about watches than the average person, or maybe you just kind of appreciate certain details more than the average person. You kind of want to have a watch that represents that, and having the regular Speedmaster might not be it. So having something that's like the same model as in that it's a Speedmaster, but is ever so different, that's the stuff. Like, that's where I think a lot of the difference comes in, where like you are proud to have the knowledge and the access and the, you know, whatever it is, to be just slightly different, but still appreciate what makes this so popular and such a good watch to begin with, right? I also love that this is a strap monster. I purchased a separate strap as well here. This is a black leather strap from Omega. This will look fantastic on a regular black leather strap. It'll look great on a suede strap. It'll look great. That's what they call a strap monster. Just like take on so many different types of straps. So there are some cons still about this watch. As much as I love it, there are some things that do bother me. The first one is the fact that it's still a manual movement. Now, some people, again, will love that, but you do have to wind this damn thing every single other day. So just something to keep in mind. If that's gonna bother you, stay away from all manual watches, but to me, like for this watch, it was worth it. But for other watches, I don't know if I would have the patience. The second thing is that this is actually a less accurate watch than the actual regular Speedmaster or a lot of Rolexes out there and things like that. This does not have a COSC or METAS certification, so it sometimes can be fast by up to 10 seconds a day. This is an old movement. They don't pretend to make it, you know, seem like this is like a very modern watch. It's like it's supposed to harken back to an older time when those things didn't matter as much, or they weren't tested, or they didn't have the technology to make it like accurate to 1 second a day. And the last one is going to be one that I always bring up, which I need to stop bringing up, but price, because we're still talking about a $14,000, $15,000 watch here. It's very expensive, very freaking expensive, especially for a Speedmaster that honestly you can get used for like $3,000, $4,000. The good news is that these hold their value fantastically. I mean, I don't know if they're like a hype where you get double your money once you buy it, but there is a waiting list for this watch. You can't just go to Omega and buy this watch, unfortunately. The waiting list is potentially years long. So buying it secondhand, you can do it. You only have to pay a little bit extra than MSRP, which is rare, especially if we're talking about some of these hype watches. This, $15,000, but maybe you pay $17,000, maybe $18,000 for this. At least this is at the time of recording here. So that makes it a much more like that's like adding tax or something like that. So would I recommend this to anybody to buy? Well, I think you have to be a real watch geek, and that's the only time that I would recommend this watch. I think most people out there, the regular Speedmaster Professional, if you love this design, that is the version I would highly recommend because it is still a fantastic watch. It's more accurate than this guy. It's cheaper than this guy. However, if you do want to be that slightly, like you just know watches way more than anyone else, and to like just have the same old watch as everyone, like that bothers you some reason, then take a look at this. Like this is, I'm supremely happy with this watch. You're not gonna find it at Omega, unfortunately, unless you get in a line and you spend a bunch of money. So get it used if you can, if you find one in really good condition. But then if that's the case, I would recommend it. Cool. Very long video, but I mean, a watch like this, maybe it deserves a long video. So thank you so much for watching. My name is Mark Kwok. I'll see you guys on the next one.